Welcome to FEO on the Air, the voice of the festivals and events industry in Ontario. This week, it's FEO Masterclass with your host, FEO CEO Dave McNeil.
Good morning, everyone. I am Debbie Mann with Festivals and Events Ontario. Thank you for joining us today for the FEO on the Air Masterclass. I'm excited to have our guest speaker with us today, Emily Tell from IdeaTilt. I met Emily, I don't know, must be a month or two ago, right, Emily, where we're at a networking event. We exchanged cards, and she sent an invitation out to take an education on Copilot with Microsoft, and I really enjoyed it. And in today's topic, since we want a masterclass on AI, I thought going to reach out to Emily and see how we can make this work. And thank you, Emily, for making it work, because I know you had you had some other things on the go, but thank you for fitting us in. So I'm going to pass it over to you. She will tell you who she is and where she comes from, and I will ask questions as they come up. Over to you, Emily.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate being here with everyone. This is actually something I'm quite passionate about because, which you're going to get to know me in just a moment here. I've actually been in business for over 20 years. I've done a lot of different things in business, but I actually spent about 10 years organizing a variety of corporate events, and I deeply understand all of the back end work that goes into creating a fantastic festival or event. And very honestly, it's the ones that seem like everything is smooth, that there's so much work that goes into that feeling for people. So want to really share how you can make that a fantastic experience for all of your attendees, but also make it a little bit easier for you. I am the CEO of IdeaTilt. As Debbie said, I specialize in AI, and IdeaTilt is a company that's all about AI. We do AI strategy. We help businesses with AI foundations like technology, data, and cybersecurity. And we also have an AI-powered procedure software that helps to get the right information to the right people at the right time every time. Let's jump into what we're here to talk about today, though, which is AI specifically for festivals and events. And I want to just do some level setting, first of all, because I know everyone's coming with different understandings of what AI is and what it does. So let's just get everyone on the same page and really better understand what AI is so we can talk about what it does. It's a software program. That's it, really, with a lot of data. It's trained on a lot of data. In fact, they scrape the entire internet, and it's provided with a set of instructions or rules or processes that it has to follow. It needs to know the guardrails in order to be able to understand these are the things that it can do, and these are the things that it cannot do. It is not human. I know sometimes we talk about it like it was human, but that's because it's a lot easier to use language that describes human behavior. So we might say things like it thinks, it understands, but that's because it's easier to say AI thinks than it is to say AI has ingested a data input. And then according to the instructions, procedures, data, and how it's been trained, it has now given me an appropriate output. Much easier to say that it thinks, but it doesn't actually. We just use human language to describe it. What it can do, it's good at what it's trained to do. So you'll notice that there's a variety of AIs that are on the market. Each one of them is trained a bit differently. And what I mean by training is it's given a bunch of data to better, again, I'm using human language, better understand that particular thing. So sometimes it's an AI that's been trained on lots of images, so it's great at image creation and image recognition. Sometimes it's trained on science and math. Sometimes it's trained on creative writing. So each one of them is good at different things depending on what it's been trained on. And all AIs really are good at pattern recognition and pattern prediction when you look at the kind of basics of what they do. What they can't do They cannot think or reason, even though we say that they can. They can't create items that are original, creative, or divergent. So again, remember, AI is the entire human thought that's ever been on the internet. That's all AI is using in order to predict and create outputs. And it's not good at critical thinking and problem solving. So good to know AI does a lot of things really well, but there are some things that you absolutely have to have a human in place to make sure also gets those other pieces in place, like creative thought and problem solving and validation. When you think about a single AI, so these would be things like ChatGPT, Copilot, which is Microsoft's version, Claude. There's different ones that are on the market that you might be aware of. When you think of the big model and you're interacting with it, really what it does is it takes your prompt, it creates a response based on the instructions and what it's been programmed to do, provides that response back to you. It can then update the response based on your feedback if you don't like it, if you do like it, if you want it to add something. And then it can also update future responses based on that feedback. I like to compare it to having kind of a personalized chef, right? Where you would go and say to that person, please create me a delicious apple pie. And the chef will do that. So you give an instruction, the chef goes and does that thing and then delivers the output. And then, of course, you taste the pie and you say, oh, this pie is horrible. I don't like it at all. Send it back. You know, it clearly needs a lot more sugar, whatever it is. So very similar to that, you give it an instruction, it goes and then it provides you that output, and then you can comment back on it in order for it to change that thing back and forth. So that's the basics of how an AI works. There's something called agentic AI, which is, talked about a lot, and it works very similarly. It does a lot of the same things that a single AI will do, but it has a variety of little agents in the background that each one of them are good at individual tasks that it can then feed to the centralized AI to respond back to you. So it does a lot of the same things. You're going to give it instructions. It's going to work with those little agents to create your response, provide that response, update the response based on your feedback, and again, update future responses. The easiest way to think about this is it's like a tiny little restaurant in your computer that serves up fresh insights every day. So why do I say that? When you go to a restaurant, you don't typically walk to the back into the kitchen and talk to the chef and say, I want a hamburger. You go to a table and a waiter or waitress comes to your table and says, what would you like today? How can I help you? So that is the front end of the AI. It's going to talk to you in natural language and you're going to interact with it. And then you're going to ask it to do a variety of things. For example, I need you to create an image of people having fun on Canada Day, include lots of flags, bright colors, and a diverse audience. I also want a 6-month marketing campaign that matches the feeling of that particular event. And I want a series of emails. So it's going to go to the different agents in the back end to help you to create that. Similar to a restaurant, you give your order to the waiter, they go to the kitchen, and then there's somebody who's really great at making steaks. There's somebody who's really great at making salads. There's somebody who's really great at desserts. And they each individually do those things that they're good at, give the output back to the waiter, and then they deliver it to your table. Agentic AI is like that. You may not even know that it's agentic. You're just asking for it to do something. It's going to work with those different things in the back end to give you that fantastic, served up dish that you're looking for, whatever it is, and allow you to work more deeply with the AI with different tasks. All right, so that's the basics. Don't worry, you don't need to know coding for anything that I'm going to talk about today. In fact, I also like to think of AI in this way. Many of us drive cars, and I'm going to say the majority of us could not take apart our engine and every single part and component of our car and put it back together again. But each of us knows how to drive a car, a majority of the population, I'm going to say. AI is very much like that. You don't typically need to know how to code. You don't need to be a data scientist. You just need to know how to drive the car. You just need to know how to use it in very basic business scenarios. So how can you start to use AI right away? One of the first things that I say is you need a strategy. Why do I say that? Because if you start putting AI into everything, it can become very complicated very fast. It can also become very expensive very fast. So if you're buying multiple different types of software to solve multiple different types of problems, it can be overwhelming. It can be very cost heavy. And also, you're not going to necessarily see the kinds of outcomes that you really want to see. So really think strategically about what is the most painful thing that you need to solve. And that's where you should be immediately focusing your efforts. And the other thing to consider is with AI, you also need some of the foundations right in order for the AI to work really well. Sometimes people will buy an AI and they won't see the business it outputs that they're really looking for, that return on investment. And oftentimes it's because they don't have the foundations right. So you don't have the right data, which means like the information from your documents, from your systems, things like that. So maybe you don't have the right data, maybe it's not centralized. Also, privacy and security is a real concern. You want to make sure that things are private and secure with any kind of information that you're working with, especially with AI and especially with public AIs, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then also, you may not have appropriate processes and procedures, which aren't just for humans. AIs also need to know what are those rules and what types of things can I do and how do they need to be done. So make sure you have your foundations right. And just to pause on privacy and security or come back to it, be really careful when you're using an AI, especially when you have private confidential information like customer signups, customer information, that you keep that information private. Anytime that you're working with an AI, typically you want to go into a paid version in order to keep that information private. So the way that AIs work from a pricing model perspective is the free version, like the free version of ChatGPT, the free version of many of them. It won't guarantee your privacy. So whatever you put into it, those prompts are saved. And also that information can go to educate the large language model or educate the data set, which means it's now out in the public domain. Anybody can find it. So you want to pay for privacy. And also when you pay for a subscription, you're going to get more enhanced functionality too. So as you pay, you'll find again, more privacy, more functionality as you go up the ladder. But of course, with any AI and any software in general, you always want to make sure that you're reading through the terms and conditions to make sure that you are, if you are using it for private types of information, that it is going to keep it private and secure as it works with you. And there are ones that are inherently set up to do that, which we'll talk about in a moment. So when we come back to strategy, all right, so we want to think about what do I want to solve? You want to pick the right problem. And this is the fastest, easiest way to get started is think about and talk about as a team, what's your biggest pain point? So just start by picking something critical that you either need to solve or you need help with. Maybe you don't have the staff to help you. Maybe you don't have the budget to hire people to help you, but you need help, or something that you just really don't like doing. Get the foundations right around that one thing. And then pick one way that AI can help you improve it. Again, oftentimes with AI and with many softwares, there's literally thousands of things that it can do to help to improve your everyday processes, but really narrow it down to some very simple ways that you can start to see some business efficiencies and some quick wins, and then add on to those over time. And I really strongly suggest don't add too much complexity. So limit your AI solutions. And in fact, I really strongly suggest start, if you're just starting out with using AI, start with one that's already connected to your environment. So for example, if you already are using Google Workspace, use Gemini. Gemini is already integrated into Google Workspace. You just need to purchase the additional license, or you can use Gemini back and forth. You can also connect Claude, which is another type of AI, with Google Workspace. Or if you're a Microsoft kind of shop, you can use Copilot, which is also directly connected in with all of the Microsoft platform. The reason that I say that is because it does a couple of things. One, it protects your privacy because you don't need to copy paste between different things, between your Gmail or your Outlook and then ChatGPT. You can actually keep everything inside of the same tenant, right? From a software perspective, everything's all together. And it also creates a lot of really fast, easy efficiencies right away. So whether you're using Gemini for Google or Claude or Copilot for Microsoft, you can actually use those things right in the flow of work. So for example, you'll see a little icon as you're typing out an email. If it's an email normally you would type out for yourself, you can actually just use the AI and ask it to write it for you. We'll talk about prompts in a minute. You can say something, for example, like create a fun, friendly email that will go to this type of demographic for this festival and event. Make sure that you include all of the different kinds of event details so attendees know how to sign up, how much it is, including location, date, cost, time, any other particulars like parking, event, and venue information. And it will actually pull all of that together for you. And then you can just quickly edit it. It can also do the same things inside of documents, inside of spreadsheets. You can just prompt it from right inside of those different applications and use the AI right inside of the flow of work. So you don't have to copy paste or upload anymore. So that's one of the fastest, easiest ways to get started is just by turning on the AI that's already attached to where you currently do all of your regular day-to-day business work. The other thing too is to think about not just the right problem, but the right AI. So as I said, I do recommend using one that's going to help you in the flow of work, but you might need an additional one to do very specialized things. So for example, for festivals and events, a lot of marketing, a lot of what people get excited about is image-based, right? So the things that get them engaging visually with what the event might look like, feel like from a participant's perspective. So you might need an AI that's really good at image generation, for example. But whichever AI you're looking at, you want to make sure you get the right one. So if you remember back to the beginning when we started talking about AI, I said it depends on which AI you use because each one is trained on different things. So I like to think about AI like hiring an intern. The same way that if I really needed some financial analysis done, somebody who could help me really do deep market research and put together financial projections, I would not hire a marketing intern. And I also wouldn't hire a financial intern to do really great marketing, website design, and all of those things. So when you're hiring an intern, you hire a person based on the types of experience and information that they know and are comfortable with. An AI, you want to, I'm going to say hire, but really use one that is specialized in that particular thing. Here's the cool part. If you don't know what the AI is good at, you can actually just ask it. So for example, you can say to ChatGPT, can you produce images? Are you good at that? Or tell me a little bit about what you specialize in. And the AI will actually tell you the things that it can and can't do and the things that it specializes in. So do some research and just ask. Ask the AI what it's good at, and it will tell you. And then choose the right one for the right problem that you're trying to solve or the right thing that you need it to do. The other thing too is to prompt with supporting documentation whenever it makes sense. And that again is very similar what you would do with a human intern. If I were going to an intern on their first day and I needed them to create a presentation that was going to go to my senior management, I wouldn't just say, go and put a PowerPoint together, figure it out. If I wanted it done really well, I'd say, I need a PowerPoint done for my senior management. Here's an example of one that I've done before. Here's our branding that I want you to use. And this is the style of information that they like to hear. And that's setting that person up for success. The same thing is true with an AI. You need to prompt it, which is essentially just providing it with the context of what you want to do and how you want the AI to do it. So, in the same kind of way, if I want an AI to produce something that looks and feels like something else I've done in the past, I'm actually going to upload it, or I'm going to prompt the AI to go to a URL and find it so that it can replicate that item. So, for example, if you have marketing campaigns that you love that have worked really well in the past, you can actually upload those documents and you can ask AI, please create a marketing campaign that is very much like the marketing assets that are attached. You can add additional branding, colors, themes. You can ask it to add in additional logistics, information about this particular event. But anytime you have supporting documentation that it can reference, that's going to help it create something that's actually really relevant. The same thing is true if you want to create an email or a post for social media or a document that really sounds like it's been written by you personally. You can actually prompt the AI to write something, and then you can give it examples of things that you've written in the past, and it will write in a style that sounds very much like you. It may not be exactly right, the same way that an intern isn't going to be exactly right, but it will give you enough that you will be able to very quickly edit it instead of having to start from scratch. And it's also good at not just producing things for the future, but if you give it documentation, it's also really good at analyzing things from the past. So you can also ask the AI, for example, to look at all of your sales from last year for a particular event, to identify the different demographics, the locations of those people, the number of people that attended, if there were different peaks during the day for attendance, any kind of data that you can give it from previous events, it can also analyze to give you some unique insights that will help you with some of that event planning, logistics, and marketing as you go into the next calendar year. Then, of course, you also, is there a question?
I just had a real quick question because I play around a lot with AI.
Yeah.
Do you mean all I have to do is just take a document that I have and just attach it and it'll read it? Like I
That's
don't have to copy
absolutely
and
right.
paste it.
So depending on the AI that you're using, a couple things. First of all, make sure if you're attaching anything that has customer data or confidentiality stuff, that you're using a private version. But yes, depending on the AI, you can actually just upload a document directly to it instead of copy paste. And it will read the entire document. So it'll scan it, it'll look for all of the patterns, all of the information, and then it will repurpose it in whichever way that you want.
Wow. I've been doing it wrong all this time. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome. And it can also repurpose it in a variety of different ways. So you can, for example, take all of let's say you have marketing information, right? You've got, your business plan, your budget, your different information internally. You can actually feed it that information and say, based on this information, I want you to create a one-page summary. I want you to create an email to my team about what they need to do. I want you to create a project plan. I want you to create a set of emails that get people enticed and excited leading up to the event. So you can use the same thing over and over again for different tasks as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for multiple types of things that you need it to do.
So I could have like our strat plan and pop that in and just say, okay, how do I let our members know about our strat plan and what we're doing moving forward? Like that? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And if it's not quite right, you can just reprompt it again. How can I do that in a more exciting way? What are some ways I can make it visually appealing? Is there a chart that I can include? Very much like talking to an intern and kind of going back and forth about what they can and can't do, you can talk to your AI in that same way and ask it for advice. How else can I do this? What else might I include? And it will give you advice as well on the things that it recommends. The one thing I will caution is sometimes if your chats get too long, so if you've been going back and forth for a while, the AI can only really remember or consume and parse data for so long. So at a certain point, if your answers are getting a bit clunky or they don't seem to make sense anymore, I do recommend just start a new chat, and then you'll get fresh results that make a lot more sense and are in line with what you're looking for. And then repeat your successes. So once you get a prompt right, you can actually save them. For a lot of the platforms that are out there, you can actually go back to prompts and reuse them for new types of information, or you can copy and paste them and save them somewhere and repost them if you want. Also, if you get a really fantastic output, so let's say it creates this amazing marketing visual and you just love it, you can ask the AI, what prompt could I use to get this result next time? And it will actually tell you how to prompt it, and you can learn as you go. When it comes to prompting, as I said, you can learn as you go, but also remember that the AI can get things wrong. So, for example, you might ask for an image where someone is raising their right hand, and it will give you an image where someone is raising their left hand. You might ask for an image that clearly has the Canadian flag, and it might come up with something that has a red pear in the middle instead of a red leaf. So you want to make sure that you're always validating whatever it's produced. Again, the same way that you would with someone who is an intern and is less familiar with the work that person is doing. You want to validate it, make sure that it makes sense, edit it so that it looks good. But again, that effort is going to be about 10 times less time and energy than it would normally take to simply edit something rather than having to create it brand new. Some common business prompts that you can use, as I said, you can use AI to help you in the moment, to write an email, to create a document, to get statistical, financial insights. You can look backwards in time by feeding it data. You can help it, ask it to create things that are forward facing. Lots of different uses. So some good examples of how you might use it for festivals and events. From a marketing perspective, instead of you writing all of your social media from scratch, I do recommend using AI to help you to generate some good ideas. And again, get you a nice base that you can work off of. And then you can tweak it, edit it, change it as you want to. So for example, you can ask it, create a 6-month content plan for social media that's tailored to whichever festival it is that's upcoming. The plan should be tailored to Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever your platform is. You can actually ask it to tailor to that. You can ask it to also include monthly themes, a weekly posting schedule with 2 per week, suggest a visual and captions and hashtags. And by the time it has produced that, you'll have a full 6-month plan leading up to the festival or event that you're trying to promote. And then, of course, you can tweak it, you can change it, you can add on to it as you want, but it gives you, again, a great plan and a good base to work from. For market analysis, again, you can look backwards in time. Anytime you have data that it can analyze, it can give you some great insights to make future decisions. So for example, you can say, research these festivals and events from last year, right? You can name them, or you can point it to websites, or you can even be more generic and say all festivals and events between June and August of last year. Depends on the scope of what you want. Summarize the event details in a table and include all of the following columns: date, location, theme, number of attendees, the demographic of the targeted attendees, and the cost per person. And it will give you a nice table that will show you a comparison of every event that you were looking for in that particular scope that you've defined. And it can give you a nice idea of who are you directly competing against for time and attendees, what kinds of costs are they looking at in comparison to your event, and it can help you make some really great strategic decisions. You can also use it for things like sales. You can ask it to look at sales from the previous year in an attached document, for example. Ask it to look at purchasing trends by location, size of event, and any other data that's in there. It could be demographic, it can be by theme. for the festival, whatever it is that you're looking for insights on, the AI will be able to produce that because, again, it's really great at pattern recognition and pattern prediction. And you can also look at market insights as well. So you can have it live look at all of your posts on Instagram. So instead of you having to scroll through them, you can actually just ask the AI, review all of the posts on Instagram for FEO, identify trends for which types of posts are gaining the most viewership. And then you can ask for other details as well, like is there a style of image that seems to resonate? You can ask it for additional information that way as well. And these are just a few of the prompts. What I'm going to say is when you create a prompt, again, think of it as an intern. A prompt is just a fancy way of saying a question or providing context. The more context you can provide, the better. So if you can tell it, for example, exactly what you're looking for with specific details, point it to a supporting document, that's a really great prompt. If you don't know how to prompt, you can actually also ask the AI, I need a good prompt. I'm not sure how to write it. Can you help me with that? Sometimes people will go between different AIs, go to one and say, write me a prompt for this one, and vice versa. And each one of the different AIs out there will also have tips and tricks on how it prefers you to prompt. Sometimes they will say, include your role. So for example, I am a person that organizes festivals and events. I focus on marketing, and I like to have a friendly, happy, encouraging voice. And then you tell it exactly what kind of copy you want to write according to that role. It varies by AI, but really you can either ask it or you can usually do a little bit of just digging around to see how it prefers it. I just recommend asking the AI how it prefers to be worked with and the kinds of prompts that work best, and it will just tell you. And then again, you learn as you go. I'm always happy at any time to talk to people about AI and support them. I know that it's very new and very fresh for a lot of people, and there's a lot of fantastic things that people can do with AI. So at any time, please follow me on LinkedIn. I consistently post videos about it, but also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can also connect with me on email at connect@ideatilt.com. If you have questions, again, I'm really passionate about helping businesses to be successful and to use AI quickly to do that, especially for festivals and events, because honestly, this is where we have fun, we build joy, memories, and community. So really passionate about helping this particular community and looking forward to any questions you might have right now. So I'll love to hear any questions, and I think there's some in the chat here.
Hey, Emily. Okay, that was so amazing. So how would someone go about, like in the festival and event industry, how would we go about looking for the right platform or tool outside of the ones that you mentioned? So are there specific ones? How would you know that it's the right one other than, I guess there's so much out there.
There's so much out there. There's, and to even make it more complicated, there's a website called There's an AI for That. So, and it really it lists all of the different AIs that are out there. There are thousands of them. So it's definitely a problem when you're trying to pick the right one. What I can suggest, very honestly, is the first thing you should do is use an AI to do the research for you. So instead of manually going website to website to see what those different things are, just ask the AI, what are the top 10 AI softwares that help me with customer relationship management or CRM work? It's going to give you those top 10. And then you can prompt it again to say, in a table, give me the name, the URL, the cost per month, the key features, And again, it'll produce a table for you, so you don't have to do all of that research by manually going to each one of the websites. It will pull it all into a table for you, and then you can visually see which one has the features that you want at a price that you can afford, and is also one of the ones that is typically recommended. And then once you've got your top 3, then you can click on the URL, do a little bit more investigation on your own, but it's going to speed up your research exponentially by just using the AI to help you with some of that.
Wonderful. And from a creative perspective, because the festival and event industry is in the creative realm, in how do I enhance my festival? What can I do to add new elements to it? How can I create some visual marketing? Like, where do we go for all of that? Like, are there AIs that are specific for like images, like creating
Yes.
marketing tools?
Yes, absolutely. So again, you can have a look at what's out there. The ones that I really like, there's a couple things I look for. One is if I'm going to buy a new software, I'll look and see if it has something that's AI enabled in it. So for example, like HubSpot is a CRM. It also has some AI functionality that's going to help me to also work more effectively in it. And then if I'm looking specifically for image generation or kind of marketing material, like really visually stunning things, I love Canva. So Canva is great, and Canva AI is even better. You can use Canva AI really quickly. And again, what you can do is that you can actually feed it a document and say, based on, for example, based on my event strategy, design 3 beautiful PDFs that have a visual that lists the top 5 reasons you should go, date, event, time, location, and provided in a variety of colors with different calls to action. And it will produce those beautifully designed PDFs for you, or image kind of callouts. You can, again, prompt it if it's not exactly what you want. You can regenerate them. You can add your own images. But if you also want to generate images, very honestly, I don't use stock images anymore for the most part. I use AI to create all of my images for my LinkedIn posts, Instagram, all of my marketing material. I use AI and I prompt it to create those images for me. It obviously saves me a lot of time and also a lot of budget because I don't have to work with a design specialist to do it. And the ones that I really like for images, ChatGPT is actually really great at it. And it has something else attached to it called Sora, Sora. And Sora is great at not just image generation, but also video generation. So video generation has been something that's typically outside of budget for a lot of us. And you can create these really fun images and then even have that image turned into a small little mini video. So like just a 10-second video that captures people's attention, gets them excited about the event. And again, the AI can completely generate that. And then you can post it onto Instagram, LinkedIn, to a website, if that's how you're generating traffic, etc. So not just for image generation anymore, you can use it for image generation, but then you can also use it for these great little fun videos that are related to your content. And it can be in a variety of different styles, depending on what you want.
So, our industry takes a lot of pictures at their events. Can they populate Sora with some of their images and ask it to do something with it?
Yes, you absolutely can. So I was working with an artist yesterday, actually, who has these beautiful paintings, and he's looking at having those paintings come to life. So he's actually going to upload a digital image of his painting, and then his painting's going to talk to you. So it can take all of your images. You can create a collage. So instead of actually having to use Clipchamp or, there's a variety of different video editing software out there, you can upload your images and just tell it, create a video collage, include video, music in the background. I want it to be 10 seconds long, include this call to action at the end, right? Or include this summary. at the end. So you can actually prompt it to create things with those. You can also prompt it to use those images to do other things. Obviously, you want to be, when you're using images and video, anytime that there's a human in it, you want to be careful. You don't want to change the way that that human is interacting. I'm sure everyone is going to be respectful and amazing with all of the image generation that they do. But people want to make sure that their images are being maintained and not changed with AI. So just be knowledgeable and cognizant that people are typically fine with their images being online as long as the AI isn't disrupting them too much. So it's great for collages. It's great for AI generated video where it's going to talk to or have an image or a character talk about something. And then when you have lots of images, as I said, again, you can use those to create collages, interactions, and calls to action and other types of summaries of the events.
Okay. There's so much. So when I started using AI, and any, like, everybody here, feel free to jump in at any time. But when I started using AI a couple of years ago, yeah, two years ago now, I was told to train ChatGPT, because that was one of the very few products out at the time.
Yeah.
To speak in my voice, and I had
Yes.
to ask it. I was told, ask it to ask me 10 questions about my business, per se. Do you still need to do all of that? And then answer the questions. Is
You
that
can.
something you can't? It's time consuming, man. I spent hours doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say you can. You don't need to. It will actually, so one of the other benefits of opening an account and then, of course, having a unique name and password to sign into it is it will start to learn a little bit about who you are over time, right? So the kind of style that you like, the kinds of prompts that you typically use. As I said, you're going to have a prompt library that will just build up over time. And you can then also tell the AI, look at all of the prompts that I've had to date and create something in my voice. Or you can also upload documents, right? If it's connected to your email. So, for example, Gemini, if you have it connected to Google Workspace or Copilot connected to Outlook, you can actually just prompt it, read through my emails and write an email in my voice that gets people excited, feels very personal, and it includes the things that I normally would and the pattern of writing that I would typically use. So it can get to know you over time, or you can point it to something so that, again, and I say get to know you, that's a really human thing to do. It's really just pattern recognition. It's going to look at all of the data about Debbie or Emily, and it's going to say, oh, Emily really likes a clear, succinct email header. She likes to put bold captions at the tops of each of the different sections of information. She likes to close with a friendly, closing line like have a great weekend or something like that. So it looks at patterns for how I format my documentation, how I say things in my voice, and then it repeats that pattern in whatever style of document I'm looking for it to produce.
Wow. I just see how we humanize AI just because of that. We can humanize it so much. Aaron has a question. Aaron, go ahead. Oh no, I'm sorry, was it Aaron? Yeah. Oh no, it was Peter. Sorry, Peter. Toronto Garlic Festival.
Hi. Yeah, thanks. I have a sort of common question. So I'm finding that I use ChatGPT a lot. It's hugely powerful, and it's really good at, for example, if I need to fill in an application for something,
Yes.
and let's say could be a grant, for example,
Yes.
and I have like past grants that we've used, and I'll feed it those, and then tell it to create answers to this new form based on those previous ones, and it's really very accurate. And then one challenge though is with if your documents are in Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, you have to like manually drop in documents, or
Yes.
you can point it to one document only. And we have like thousands of documents and folders. So I'm currently getting someone to to have our ChatGPT be able to train on all of our last 14 years of documents.
Mhm.
And the jury is still out if this person can get it done. So far, so good. But I find that would be like a big leap forward in using our past information quickly, as
Mhm.
opposed to uploading documents every time we have a new question.
Right. And that's why I suggest using one of the ones that's already attached to your environment. So, for example, I use Microsoft and I just simply purchased a Copilot license, and it allows me to do all of that without having to upload anything. So it immediately is turned on inside of my Microsoft instance, and it automatically has access to all of the documentation. So if I can ask it to go to a SharePoint site. I can even not know where something is, and I can simply ask Copilot, where did I put the budget from 2023? And it will find it for me, give me the link. It has access to the entire environment. And because of that, you can get some really great deep insights. So similar to what you were saying, Peter, instead of just kind of uploading very sporadically, it has access to the entire drive so that it can use all of that information to help to inform future decisions and future creations, similar to Gemini inside of Google Workspace. The other thing, happy to have a conversation about the technology, but you can also connect an API, which is an API is a fancy way of saying a data highway. So it allows information to flow between the AI and your intranet or your documentation repository. You can connect an AI with an API actually to wherever all of your documents are centrally stored, and then it can actually just simply access them from there. You don't necessarily have to train it on all of them. You can. That is a more complex, longer, and often more expensive way to do it. But instead, a fast, easy way to do it is just to connect the two so that it simply has access and that it can use that information to generate new documentation, new insights, new information all of the time. And then
So
as that database updates, it does too.
um, sorry, you're filling my head with questions.
Yeah.
So we have, our challenge is that we have documents like a lot in both Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive. And so I think like if we use Copilot, it wouldn't be able to look at those things in Google Drive. So that's why we're using, I guess we're using an API. It's a bit of a custom thing. It's also an interesting challenge.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons too why I recommend, what's the metaphor? Don't boil the ocean. Pick
Right.
one challenge that you're trying to solve for and then solve it really well. All AI works well and you'll get the best business results if your data is centralized. So right now it's decentralized. You've got a bit in OneDrive and you've got a bit in Google.
Yeah.
So it's best if you can centralize it into one repository, make sure that it's clean and understandable, have it secure. That's really important, especially as what you start to aggregate information. You want to make sure that there's good cybersecurity controls around all of that data. And once you have that set up, then you of course want to also put some access controls around it, because there may be things that only you should see, for example, but not everyone on your staff should see, right? So especially if it's
Right.
all of your company information, you want to have access controls for senior management, HR people, everyday staff, so that they'll only see the information that they are supposed to when they're doing a prompt or when they're creating new content from that information. An
Makes sense.
easy, fast way to do that is I like to recommend data sprints. So You pick your problem and you pick your data, and you just migrate a little bit of it. So migrate for one problem to be solved. So as you take that data and migrate it into that centralized repository, you make sure it's clean, you make sure it's cyber secure, and you make sure that your access management is in place. And then you can add your AI on top of it and start to use that data for AI generated insights. And then a couple weeks later, you do the same thing. And you just keep migrating data over a period of time. That allows you to start using it right away so you can see some quick wins and actually experience some good return on investment instead of waiting for the entire mountain of data to be consumed. You can start using as it iteratively gets added into that database, and you can start to solve problems immediately and then add them and to them on over time.
What does clean mean?
Clean means that, for example, and this depends on your software and systems a lot of the time. If the data that you have is documentation that humans have written, typically a natural language processor is going to look through it. And I say look, but it's going to scan it for information. If it is columns of data that have come out of a system, so let's say, for example, it's your CRM, and you have a big Excel spreadsheet output of all of the data in your CRM. Sometimes that data isn't clean, meaning that there might be dashes in there that aren't supposed to be in there. There's empty rows. There's a column that says person's name, but there's, things that are blank, or there's numbers in there instead of letters. Clean data means that the data is quickly scannable and understandable for the AI. And when I say understandable, meaning that it can see the pattern and the pattern makes sense.
Right. Oh, and in fact, that's where you could use the AI to clean the data.
You can use the AI to clean the data. So you can point it towards an Excel spreadsheet, and you can ask it to remove all of the empty rows, to scan it for things that don't make sense. So for example, make sure that there are names in every field in the name column. So there's no gaps, there's no mistakes, there's no numbers or symbols, other types of things, but you can have the AI do that. You can also often fix the issue upstream by going directly into the software and changing the kind of output that you're getting, right? So if it's an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file or something else, you can often program the software to give you a different output that's cleaner, so you're not having to go through that step. And then you want to make sure that that's consistent across the different platforms that you're using, which is why I also suggest try to make whatever technology you're using, try to reduce the numbers of technology that you're using, make sure their outputs are good, meaning the data that's flowing out of those systems, that it's readable and understandable by the AI so that it can actually use them. And that's where you're going to see some really great automations, as well as AI applications of that information.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I'm going to go back really quickly, Debbie. You had a question at the very beginning, which was Firefly AI. What's that? So there's Firefly AI. Their Copilot has a recording option as well. A lot of the different video platforms for this type, or for a video type of call, now have a transcribing feature. And honestly, it's amazing. Obviously, you have to be careful how often and for what you use it. Sometimes private information shouldn't be shared and transcribed. But one of the things I love it for is things like this call today, for example. You can have the AI transcribe the entire thing, and then you can also have it translate it. If you have, for example, someone who is a French Canadian who wants it in French, you can have it transcribe it very quickly. You do still need a human to validate. Another thing I love it for is when you're meeting with vendors or a meeting with customers, you can use the AI to transcribe the meeting. And then right after the meeting, you can ask the AI to summarize the minutes of the meeting, summarize all of the action items, including dates and who is supposed to be doing what, So, and you can also ask it for provide a summary for my team, provide a summary for senior management, provide a summary for my customer. So you can actually ask it to do all of the things that you would need to do out of that meeting, and it will automatically produce each one of them for you. So
Wow.
yeah, and I love it because it allows me to really focus on the person and the conversation instead of trying to multitask and, write handheld notes quickly or quickly type something. It really allows me to see them and really connect in the conversation, knowing that my AI is going to manage the logistics and keep track of who said who's going to do what, when do we need to do it by, when do I need to follow up. And again, if it's integrated into your instance, you can actually even ask it to do some of those things. So I can ask it to send the email, I can ask it to write the email, I can ask it to put a calendar invite for when I'm supposed to follow up with them. There's a bunch of different things that you can do, and it's already embedded as a part of your work.
And is that part of so is it part of Zoom? Or is this something that you have to add to, is this another purchase? Is this a free offering through ChatGPT or?
Yeah, so usually it is something that comes with an AI subscription. I'm not sure of what the one is for Zoom. I'm sure we could really quickly find out. I might be able to do that quickly. But for Copilot, as soon as you turn on Copilot, it becomes available in everything that you use every day. Your email, Excel, Word documents, Teams meetings, everywhere that you work, inside of Teams chats as well. If there's a chat going back and forth, you can ask it to summarize it. There's lots of in the moment, in the flow of work ways that you can use it. The same thing is true for Google's Gemini. It'll just be embedded in exactly what you're doing every single day. So you don't need to copy paste. You don't need to use anything else. You can just use that item to do it in the flow of work, exactly where you would normally work with people.
So I'm just looking here with the attendees, and there's Firefly's AI. There's somebody on here about Firefly's AI. I don't know if oh yeah, they are. There she is. Okay. Can somebody like register for the Zoom and then just send their note taker instead of showing up themselves?
They can, but it's going to be a pretty useless conversation because all Firefly does is record.
Okay.
So unless Firefly is calling me and I'm going to talk to myself for an hour, which could happen, it's not going to be terribly valuable. So it's really there to record the conversation between two parties.
Okay.
You could use it if you wanted it to record something and transcribe something. Let's say, for example, you wanted to you wanted to say a speech, or you wanted to get your ideas on paper, you could use it that way to transcribe your information, but not typically. That's not usually how it works.
Oh, I meant in sort of like this presentation where, let's say Jamie couldn't make it and
Yep.
she would just send her Firefly to it and take all the informations and summarize it for her.
Oh, I see what you mean. So
Yeah.
usually the Firefly is used for the person that has actually opened the Zoom. You can, I believe, have it attend on your behalf, but that also doesn't stop it from getting kicked out. So AI is also a privacy thing. Anytime that you're recording and transcribing, you really should have the person's permission to do so. So that's one of the things that you should be careful of. I do see here that Zoom users can use Firefly AI Note Taker for free at the entry level. It does integrate directly with Zoom to record, transcribe, and summarize your meeting. So you can connect your Zoom account for free. And there's some things that come with the free account. Again, I would just confirm exactly what the privacy settings are to make sure that it's protecting that information as it's transcribing, and anywhere that it's stored is also protected.
Got it. Got it. Well, this has been fascinating, and I think our hour is up. So I want to thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Emily, for taking time and really talking about AI in a basic way. Like for me personally, just to give it some context that I can understand, because there's so much out there and it can get overwhelming.
There's so much. I agree. So that's why I say pick one, get really good at it, and then you can add on over time. There's thousands of them out there. Don't try to learn thousands. It's not worth your time and effort. Pick one, get really good at it, and then add on ones as you need them for that particular problem that you're trying to solve.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have next week, just a quick announcement. We won't be having a FEO on the air because it's July 1st. So happy Canada Day in advance for everyone. On July 8th, we will again pick it up again with Supplier Spotlight, where Jay will host this with a guest. Thank you so much again, and until the next FEO on the air. Thank you.
Yeah, and also just one last shout out. I'm happy to do keynotes at any time, happy to do workshops. Please reach out if you also just have a question. Very passionate about helping everybody to be successful. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks for listening to FEO on the Air, the voice of festivals and events in Ontario.